Welcome to the Libra Love Lounge, the show where I read posts on Reddit and give them relationship advice. My name's Eliana Camargo, and let's jump into the first post. I, 22 female, don't know how to deal with the situation with my boyfriend, 22 male. Please help. Hello guys, I don't know where else to post this. Basically, I am 22 female in a relationship with my boyfriend, 22 male, for almost 2 years. We're so great together. We had just some problems about a thing, which is lying. I'm not a big fan of lying, but let's see where she's going with this. So I had some dependent issues and I worked on it. It was after 1 year of relationship, so last summer, he created an account in a game and lied to me about it because I was sad when he wasn't with me. He promised me each time that he's doing something else. For example, he was telling me that he's busy with his father, but he was in a game. I knew that because there's an option to see the history, so I knew and it was hurting me so much, but I blame it on myself because I decided to show him those toxic traits. She decided to show him the toxic traits of being clingy and wanting to know where he's at and wanting to spend time with him. I'm a little confused about what she's blaming herself by. Anyways, once in a fight, he told me everything and promised me he will never do it again. Well, even though I told him I worked on myself and it wasn't a problem for me anymore, he created another account and same things, promised me he wasn't lying, he didn't open it, etc. And in November, I went into his phone and confronted me. I cried a lot, I told him I feel like shit because it wasn't just about that he was always with his friends watching movies and gaming together. And with me, when he came on Discord to talk, he was staying for like 5 minutes and then tells me that he's tired. Anyways, I thought we broke up, but instead, a week after not talking to each other, he apologized a lot, he cried, he also deleted all his accounts on social media, opened new ones, and added just me. That's a little bit strange. What's the point of social media if you just have your girlfriend and that's it? Like, that's not really addressing the root issue here. Like, that's a little bit sus. It's a little bit weird to delete all your social media and then just add your girlfriend. Like, that doesn't seem like a healthy place to be. It was really tough to trust him again, etc. But I did because he proved to me. He did a lot of nice things for me, especially when my birthday came and he kept reassuring me that he will never do anything he did in the past. Today I was playing, we were together on Discord, but he was watching a YouTube video. Then when I finished my game, I returned to Discord and I saw his activity. He was playing in the same game I was, and the same game he lied so much about it. But the thing is, I added him in his accounts with my main and unique one, and he wasn't online. I found it weird. I asked him, he told me that he was on another. I told him, okay, fine, when you finish, just add me with yours. He told me, okay, but when he finished, he joined the account I'm friends with. I asked him why. He told me he was playing with his main account. Dumb reason, but I told him okay. When I did go search his main account, there wasn't any recent game. I don't know how Discord works, but why does he have multiple accounts? So I can see why OP is getting a little bit suspicious because that sounds a little sus to me. So I'm pretty sure he opened a new account. I'm crying about this. I know it's not a big deal, but it hurts me and I started overthinking again. I have no one to tell this because my friends didn't forgive him for what he did, so I don't want to bother them. Can you please tell me what can I do? I asked him why he didn't add me, but I'm afraid he'll tell me that I'm not trusting him enough. So this is actually a story that I left a comment on and had some back and forth dialogue with OP, which is beautiful because that's what I've been craving more of from these videos. Is oftentimes when you're giving this advice, you need to get to the root of what's going on and have some dialogue, ask some questions and see what their answers are in order to actually have helpful advice or go deeper than the surface level. But that's not always possible when you're just reading Reddit posts because obviously they're not going to respond to every comment or answer your questions or what have you. But in this case, we actually did have dialogue back and forth, which is beautiful and exactly what I wanted because I think this will end up potentially being really helpful for people to help show how you actually dig to the root cause of what's going on and overcome this. So this is the comment that I left. If you want to overcome this, you'll have to have a conversation with him about why he feels compelled to lie about what he's doing. If he says, I don't know, then tell him to introspect and journal and get back to you. Otherwise, you're not interested in continuing the relationship because you deserve better than to be with a liar. If he's of little emotional intelligence, he'll probably try to evade the root issue again and beg and say he's sorry and then he won't do it again. But that still doesn't address the cause. Tell him you appreciate the sentiment, but if you're going to build a relationship together, you need him to be able to introspect and be honest and communicate about why he's doing what he does. Tell him you won't be mad about the response. You just want to understand and grow past this together. My suspicion is it may have to do with you feeling like you don't spend enough time with him. He doesn't want to make you upset that he's choosing to play games instead of spending time with you, so he comes up with a better excuse about why he's busy. But that's immature and ridiculous. He's allowed to play games, and that's a perfectly valid excuse to not want to spend time with you in that moment. And so he shouldn't be afraid to tell you that that's what he's prioritizing. As long as you both find a balance where he does spend time with you outside of that as well, and your needs are being met. That doesn't mean he can't also make time to just game with other friends, and he should be able to tell you that without you getting upset. So explain that to him if it ends up being the reason why he's lying. And then And OP responds to me saying, I'm really fine with him spending time alone. I thought we moved on. I'm really sad about it. I don't know what else to do right now, but I'll text him. So I reply and say, that's great that you're okay with him spending time alone, but he may assume otherwise, or assume that you're just saying that. Oh, the power went out. Hence his desire to lie. I hope you can convince him to tell you the root reason why he feels compelled to lie so that you can grow past this. OP responds to me saying, he just told me if I want, he will add me on every account when he comes home. So then I respond, that's great, but it still doesn't address the why. Don't settle until he introspects and is honest. If he's too afraid to communicate about something small like this, imagine what else he'll bottle up in the future. So then she tells me, I asked him that. I found it weird. He told me that he just preferred to come on the account, which we were already friends. I don't know what to think now. And I realized that she's addressing why he didn't add her on the new account and why he came on to play on the old account, but I guess I was still trying to capture why he even lied about when he's playing games versus saying he's hanging out with his dad when really he's playing games, things like that. So that's the root reason of why I'm trying to figure out what he's lying about. I then respond and say that's still evading the question of why he lied. I suggest you use some of the prompts I wrote above. Something like, babe, I don't mind when you play games without me and need time alone or with your friends, but I do mind that you've lied so many times that that's what you're doing. I appreciate that you're trying to remedy this by adding me so I can see when you're gaming, but that still doesn't address why you felt so compelled to lie. Can you introspect and tell me the root reason? What were you scared was going to happen if you told me the truth? And so OP responds to me saying, I didn't want to tell him this. I didn't want to tell him that I went into his main account to see the game. He just repeated to avoid any misunderstanding, he will add me on every account. I told him I didn't need that. Told him I just wanted to know, and you answered me. I thought maybe he has another main account I don't know about or something. I hate talking about those things, really. I just feel sad. He seems so confident, and I seem just pathetic going around history to see if he truly played there or no. And it's at this point that I realized that OP hadn't confronted her boyfriend about him lying about gaming when he said he wasn't. I thought that that's what was going on here, but turns out she's just stressing about why he potentially created a new account and why he didn't add her on it when he said he was. And she's stressing a lot about his honesty when she's also not being honest with him about this information that she knows that she's stressing about. So I responded and said, so it seems he can't be honest until you are. Then let me ask you, what do you hate about discussing these things with him? What are you scared will happen if you admit that your intuition led to check when he was online and you found out he's been lying? And she responds, because I don't want him to feel like I'm controlling him and he'll avoid me more. And you see, he just told me that he's gonna sell some of his accounts. I told him that he's not obligated to do this because what I told him, and I added that he can play on whatever account, just don't hide things from me. And he told me that's why he wants to add me on every account, like that I wouldn't think about it. Then he told me that I know and will know everything and promised it to me. So my final response to her was, then it seems like you have two options. Either accept his action and see if you're emotionally okay going forward, knowing that at one point he lied, or overcome your fears and tell him you know so you can work past it and find emotional peace on the other side. Because if you don't address it, you'll always have paranoia and lack of trust living under the surface. I personally don't see you checking when he was online as controlling. I see it as you following your intuition that something wasn't right. And side note, women's intuition is impeccable. When we feel like something's wrong and we feel compelled to, snoop on someone's phone or snoop and see when they're online, it's 99% of the time with cause, with reason, like we find what we're looking for because our intuition was telling us that something was amiss and we needed proof to see like, oh, this person's lying to me. So I really don't think it's that bad in cases like this. See it as you following your intuition, so I'd explain it to him like that, reiterating that you don't mind when he plays games, but you do mind when he lies. If he avoids you because you're calling out his bad behavior, that's a sign that he's not mature enough to be in a relationship, and you deserve better than to be with an emotionally unintelligent liar. Again, this is just one case of a situation like this. If your relationship continues, there will be other cases of him lying that bubble up, and you can't build a relationship like that. You need trust in order for a relationship to thrive. So don't fear how he'll perceive you. You should care more about how you perceive him and be strong enough to walk away if he's not boyfriend material. That way, you'll be brave enough to have this conversation because no matter the outcome, it's a win. Either he proves that he's capable of introspecting and communicating, or he proves that you deserve someone better. And so don't worry if he pulls away from you. In the end, it's a good thing. Good luck. And then OP has their final response to me saying, in fact, he just gave me every account. There's almost 9. He told me he's fine about giving them to me with the levels of every account. So yeah, I don't know, maybe I was overthinking. Anyway, thanks a lot for your kindness and answers. Helped me a lot. I hope OP has a good resolution and that they move forward happily, that this gets buried in whatever way is necessary for the relationship, whether this is enough for OP to feel secure and they can continue forward. And I feel like lying about when you're playing video games is a fairly common lie in young men, oftentimes because they feel like they're gonna be shamed for playing video games too much, or that it's not a good excuse, that like since in the past OP has complained that she doesn't get to spend enough time with him, then he feels like she's gonna nag him and think that playing video games is a bad excuse, that he's not allowed to play video games instead of hang out with her, things like that. But it seems like OP has worked on that and has realized that, that's a little bit too clingy, that you have to fulfill some of your own needs and find a better balance with that. So she's okay with him playing video games now. She just doesn't want him to be lying about it. So I don't think that this is necessarily something that they have to break up over, as long as this isn't a symptom of something bigger. If he does end up lying about more things and then being too scared to communicate about it, typically small things like this, I don't know, I think this is a very common lie lots of guys find themselves in. And I also feel like the situation is a reflection of the state of being that OP is at. She's afraid to be honest and introspect and really come clean about this, and so obviously she's gonna be an energetic match for a relationship with a guy who's the same way. That's okay. That's where they're at in their journey, and it doesn't mean that it's doomed to be a bad relationship or anything like that. It's just that's where they're at, and they'll hopefully grow together and evolve. Or if not, sometimes you can sweep things under the rug like this and life carries on as long as everything else is going well in the relationship. So that's where I'm gonna leave that. Let's move on to the next post. And this one, the title makes me want to gag. I hate posts like this, but I think the title is very misleading, and I think there is a lesson that can be learned here, because this title is not accurate to what I think the post is really about. Am I wrong for not giving my boyfriend sex whenever he wants? Blech. Just gross, but stick with me. My boyfriend and I have been together for a decade, and we have a 2-year-old. My sex drive has went down a lot in the recent years, which is completely understandable. There was a time I didn't have sex with him in a year, and he couldn't control himself because of the sexual frustration, and he cheated on me with some random girl half our age. When I found out about the cheating, he blamed me and said it was my fault because I stopped having sex with him. He said he does everything right and I am the problem. It is true he is an active and involved father, but I just don't want to have sex. It's rare when I'm actually in the mood. I did see a doctor, and it's normal when you start to age and you're not a horny teenager anymore. Sex is just not what I want to do. I will rarely want to do it. My boyfriend blamed me because it's my job to have sex with him whenever he wants, or else I'm just asking to get cheated on. Ugh, this is so horrible and so toxic and so gross, the way that he perceives this and the fact that he cheated on her. Like, clearly, obviously, the boyfriend's in the wrong here. But I think there's also a learning lesson where OP is not completely blameless in this either. But first, let's read a couple of the comments. You aren't obligated to give your boyfriend sex, and I absolutely don't condone cheating. However, you can't unilaterally decide you're going to be in a celibate relationship and expect him to stay. You need to have an honest conversation. And if you're taking intimacy off the table, he has a decision to make, which is a very great point. OP doesn't have to have sex whenever she doesn't want to. Her boyfriend, her partner, also isn't obligated to stay in a relationship with her if he's not getting one of the big parts of what a romantic relationship is, involves sex. And if you're not getting that fulfilled, the relationship has grounds to potentially not stay, depending on what his values are. If that's a very high importance in his life, then he has the right to leave. He shouldn't cheat, and he shouldn't be telling his girlfriend that he should be able to get sex whenever he wants to. That's horrible. You can't just take sex off the table and expect your relationship to remain the same. Another comment agrees and says it's not your job to have sex with him whenever he wants. You should never have sex you don't want. You shouldn't stay with a cheater either. However, he shouldn't stay in a sexless relationship. Better for both of you to end it. Reiterates the point that I was making. If you're in a situation like this, where your partner's not cheating on you, but they have actually communicated to you the way that he should, that he's not getting his needs met, and let's see if there's something that we can do about this, which maybe he did and it led nowhere, and so he ended up cheating instead of just leaving the relationship. Let's say you're in this situation, you actually have a communicative partner who's not cheating on you, and they're concerned about this, and they're saying, hey, I'm really recontemplating things. You haven't had sex in a year, and that's not what I signed up for when I enrolled for a romantic relationship. There's an ideology out there from sex therapists who suggest when you're in a situation like this, you're not in the mood for sex, but you're not like completely turned off, repulsed by it. You're just feeling kind of like neutral, kind of meh about it. Sometimes sometimes it's okay to kind of like force the wrong word. I was gonna say force yourself to get into it. Never, force and sex should not go together. If you're just feeling kind of neutral and meh about it, and you know that this is a very important thing for your partner and something that would make them very happy and would be a great gift to give them, sometimes when you get into the motions of sex, even though you weren't in the mood before, once you start getting into it, you start enjoying it and you do end up having a good time. That's the difference between spontaneous desire and responsive desire. The average man has spontaneous desire where they're horny and so then they want sex. The average woman has responsive desire where we kind of just feel neutral about it, but then once foreplay gets involved and then once we start getting into it and start doing the act, then our libido kind of kicks up and we start getting into it and enjoying it and actually having fun with it. If you're in the situation, ask yourself, are you completely repulsed by sex? And you're like, nah, I just don't want to do that at all. Then absolutely, completely fine. Never force yourself to have sex if you're feeling like that, if you just really don't want to have sex. But if you're feeling just kind of neutral, kind of meh, you're like, I don't really want it, but it can be really valuable to just give yourself to them. Just let yourself have it, even if you're not that into it, because you might have a responsive desire and start getting into it once you actually, once the act goes underway. And also, you know, if you just went to one doctor and got your hormones checked and he's like, oh, it's normal, you're getting older, like that's not necessarily the full story or the case. Doctors love to be like, oh, you're just getting older, that's a part of life, leave my office. And if they can't prescribe you a pill, then they tell you to just leave. And that's definitely not the full story at all. There's a million and one reasons why your libido may have left. Obviously, having a 2-year-old kid doesn't help. This is where something, if you want to keep your relationship alive and your partner is very unhappy that they haven't had sex in a year, then going to sex therapy could be huge and seeing if there's any emotional block, any mental block, any physical block. Like when you do have sex, is there pain? Are you enjoying it? Does it feel good? Is it comfortable? Do you orgasm? Is he capable of making you orgasm? Because if those physical components are not there, something needs to be addressed and he needs to step it up in the bedroom and help you get there. And also certain things that you could do yourself to help improve your connection to your body and help you feel more physical sensation and feel better in that regard, improving communication and things like that. Are there any previous traumas that maybe now are showing their face and making you not desire sex anymore? Are you lacking an emotional connection with him? Are you overworked and overstressed and you need to redelegate how your workload in your life looks and so that you can be relaxed enough to desire sex? Like there's so many variables like this are worth looking into, either yourself, introspecting, journaling, asking yourself, why don't you want sex? What could make you desire sex more? Think about the times in the past where you've desired it and enjoyed it and what you got out of it. Are you still attracted to your partner? Do you feel any resentment towards them? Like there's so many things that you could unpack and uncover here. I think is worth looking into first before just being like, yeah, we're just not gonna have sex for a year. Upset that the relationship has gone downhill. Of course, again, this dude's a dick for cheating on you. It should never come to that. If there's anyone watching this who has been in a situation like this, or just store it in your mind in case in the future you're ever in a situation like this is how you address a scenario. Because you can't just withhold sex from someone in a romantic relationship and expect the romantic relationship to just always be there. Just as I start recording, the power goes out again. So the internet's out, the lights are off, but I have these posts screen captured on my phone. So we will continue reading it on my phone. Am I the asshole for staying in a marriage for 10 years to make sure I got alimony? My ex-husband, 35 male, and I, 29 female, have been married for 10 years. He was the only child of an elderly couple. I have taken care of his mother my entire marriage since she needed a caretaker. 5 years ago, I found out he was cheating. We had signed a prenup that said we would leave with the assets we had come into the marriage with. I didn't have a full-time job because I had to take care of his mother. I didn't get a salary from my caretaking, but I spent my entire marriage taking care of her and her various health issues. It didn't have a clause against cheating. It's very common for prenups to have a clause against cheating, but I guess in this case, he knew what kind of person he was, and he's like, yeah, let's not put that one in there, and then ask you to take care of my mother as your full-time job. I spoke to a couple of lawyers, and they said that even if the prenup is thrown out, which it may or may not be, depending on the judge, my husband has an inheritance from his father and can afford to bleed me dry in court. However, the prenup had a 10-year clause. I stayed for another 5 years. Some people chose to stay and reconcile. I chose to stay and make sure I didn't get screwed over. I filed for divorce after 10 years of marriage and my husband was blindsided. The assets were split down the middle and I was essentially compensated for the caretaking that I did. He's calling me cruel and calculating for what I did. He's also scrambling because there's no one left to care for his ailing mother. I told him to use his inheritance to actually buy her a caretaker that she can't take advantage of. I have a boyfriend and I'm really happy with my life, but I still get messages from my ex-husband blaming me. Am I the asshole? No, I don't think you're you're the asshole. I think it's wild that you were capable of wasting 5 years of your life staying with him to make sure that you got your money. But I mean, if that's what you wanted to do, if you felt compelled and you had the perseverance and energy to stay with a cheater for that long just to get your money's worth out of it, then props to you. I couldn't do it. But no, I don't think you're the asshole at all. He cheated on you. He used you for you taking care of his mother. I'm a huge believer in prenups, but I also am a huge believer that if you're in a situation where you're a stay-at-home mom, you're a homemaker, stay-at-home wife, anything, your husband's job is paying you to take care of the kids, paying you to take care of the house, paying you, in this case, take care of his ailing mother. If the marriage ends, you should be financially compensated for all those years that you didn't have a job and don't have job experience, because it's going to be a lot harder to get into the workforce when you haven't had job experience in a long time. And that was part of his commitment to you, was to take care of you financially. And so if that's what he agreed to, then it's only right that those finances are yours. They're shared assets at that point if he agreed to you not having a job and having another role, because that was your job. But unfortunately, it doesn't pay the way standard job does. You should be legally responsible for making sure that you do get the finances that you deserve. Are you the asshole? No, but you are a little bit crazy for being able to stick that out. But I commend you if that's what was best for your life. Let's see what the comments have to say. Not the asshole. He cheated, used you, and took advantage of you. You played his game and won. He's just mad that he couldn't have his cake and eat it too, because now he can't be a married single guy with no care, no responsibilities. He needs to look after his mother and do things you were doing. Let him stew while you move on. Unless there's a reason for contact, I would block him everywhere. Let him communicate through the lawyers. And someone else says, lol, he cheated on you while you were taking care of his mother, and now he's mad that you had the patience to wait out to get what you were due, and now he has to worry about his mother's care. He's only mad because he's now facing the consequences of his actions 5 years later. He thought he got away with being a despicable human. That, my friend, is what we call karma. Well done! I commend you on being able to stand him and his mother for another 5 years. Not the asshole. One last comment says, not the asshole. You married at 19. I bet you didn't have independent counsel review the prenup. A lot of people sign prenups in situations where there's financial imbalance and do it without understanding that they should have their own lawyer to review and negotiate fair terms. I'm sure he knew what he was doing and you did not. So the fact that you realized there was in fact a loophole that could get you a fair settlement is great. Well played. He would have left you high and dry otherwise. Alright, and for our last post, we're going to be reading a post from the love subreddit talking about someone gushing about their love so that we can feel a little bit less jaded after reading all of these horrible stories and have hope that love is still real. Raise our vibes. I can't get over what he said the other night. The night before last, I was making my boyfriend's lunch for work the next day. I enjoy expressing my affection through acts of service. He had mentioned about a month ago that he wanted to get some brown paper bags to take his lunches in. So after a good hunt, I finally found some. When I pulled them out to put his sandwiches in, he said, "It's things like this where I think she's the one." It was said in semi-jest, I think, but my God, did it make my heart swoon. I just cannot get over it. I just needed somewhere to be sappy with people who would understand. I love that. I love just like the little moments where someone expresses their appreciation and then it makes your heart just glow with happiness and warmth. It really is the little moments in a relationship that make it worth it and make it last. And if you don't show appreciation for the little things, then at some point resentment builds and it stops being a fun romantic relationship and ends up being just like a roommate partnership, or even if it's not that extreme, it's the little moments that really make relationships so worth it. And so I love reading little things like that to keep our vibes up after reading lots of these horrible stories. On that note, I'm gonna end this episode here. If you want to get the tea on even more people's love lives, then you can watch another episode of the Libra Love Lounge right over here. But until next time, I'm sending you so much love. Bye!